And so did you run away?
Well, we went downtown Nashville. We had no idea how you run away. We didn't know where to run to or anything else, but we went in the downtown and walked around down there. And when the curfew was, you had to be off the street at 10 o'clock at night. Well, we were still roaming around town because we had no place to go. We didn't know how you run away from home. But anyhow, the policeman would get us and take us home. And he did that for 3 or 4 times. And then they told my mother that if she couldn't control us, that they were going to go to the law and they were going to put us in a reform school.
You and Ann?
Ann and I, because we ran away.
So what'd you do then?
Well, Melvin come along then.
Wait, who's Melvin?
That's Will's son.
And how old was Melvin?
He was older than me, but a couple of years older than I am.
Okay. So he was maybe 16 or 17?
So, and he was a pro at running away.
Okay.
I mean, he traveled all over the United States by hitching a ride.
He would just run away from home and hitch a ride?
They didn't even bother to look for him.
He always came back?
He always came back.
Okay. So what did Melvin do?
So he came to Ann and I and he said, I'll show you how to run away from home. We told him okay. He said, well, you go home and go to bed. And he said, then when everybody's asleep at home, he said, you get up and come out of the house. And he said, I'll show you how to run away from home.
So what'd you do?
So we went to bed with our clothes on and lay there till everybody went to sleep, and then we got up and went out with just the clothes that we had on our back and met him 2 or 3 blocks from our house. And we went to the train station. And back in those days, the trains, the boxcars was always, the doors was open. So we found a boxcar that had the doors open, so we got in the boxcar. And we had no idea where we were going, where the car was going or nothing. But we got in there and we was going wherever it went. And when we got in there, there was 2 men running away from home too, I guess. But they were in one end of the boxcar and we was in the other. And we ended up in Parkersburg, West Virginia or Virginia.
West Virginia.
And the police got us as we got off the train, got out of the boxcar in the train.
Grandma, that's that's almost 500 miles from Nashville.
Oh, sure.
Oh, how long was the train ride?
Well, we went all night and most of the day the next day.
Train never stopped?
No.
And these 2, what, hobos that were in there with you?
They went right with us, yes.
I mean, that's a long time to go with no food, no water. Did they share food and water with you, or?
Well, they didn't have any either.
Oh.
So when we got out of the car, the police was there. I don't know whether somebody had told them ahead of time or what, but there they were to get us. And they didn't bother these 2 hobos.
Just took you kids.
But they took us, and they was going to put Melvin in prison for taking us, telling us how to run away. And he said he didn't even know us.
Oh, he denied knowing you.
He didn't even know who we were or anything. He just met us in the boxcar.
Well, how'd they find out the truth?
They finally talked to us and found out the truth.
Oh, okay. So you and Ann told them
Yeah.
the truth. Well, then, how'd you get back home?
Well, they took us back home. The police took us back home.
The railroad police
The
took you home.
railroad police took us back home. And they told my mother then that for sure they were gonna put us in the reform school because she couldn't control us. Well, I don't know whether my mother called my uncle that lived in Youngstown or how he found out about it. But anyhow, he called my mother and talked to her and talked her into, he said, we don't have any children. And he said, let us adopt the two girls so they don't go to reform school.
So your aunt and uncle in Youngstown, Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
did they come to Nashville?
They came,
Did they go to court?
he came to Nashville.
Oh, she didn't come.
She didn't come, she was working.
Okay, and what were their names?
His name was Harris.
Was that Jesse and Alice?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and how was he your uncle? Was he your
He was my mother's brother,
mom's brother? Okay.
the only brother. My grandmother had 5 kids, and only 2 of them lived. The oldest of the 3 other ones was 3 months.
Oh.
They all died.
So Jesse and Alice Harris,
Mm-hmm.
not Johnson.
What?
Their name wasn't Johnson?
No.
Oh, I had Johnson down here. I don't know where that came from. So Jesse and Alice Harris
Mm-hmm.
adopted you.
Ennis.
Or Ennis.
Yeah. It was my mother's brother.
Okay. So they adopted you, Jesse and Alice Ennis
Mm-hmm.
adopted you and Ann,
Mm-hmm.
and they took you to Youngstown.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did they go to court? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
They went in front of a judge to adopt you?
They went the whole way. I mean, it was all legal.
In Nashville.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And what did he do for a living?
He was a truck driver. Over the road truck driver.
Okay. So he adopted you and you were how old?
15 and a half, like.
So it was about 1931 when you came to Youngstown.
I think it was 33.
Maybe 1933. Okay. But the early 1930s, you came to Youngstown.
Mm-hmm.
What was Youngstown like? Other than Parkersburg, West Virginia, was that the farthest you'd ever been from home?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like, coming to a new city at 16 years old?
Well, it was scary. We didn't know what those cops was going to do with us.
Well, your uncle brought you back here, though.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got here. What did Youngstown look like?
Well, we lived right across. They lived right across the street from Wonder Bakery there, on the west side.
And so you saw.
So we went there, and I woke up one night in the night, and the sky was red. I run in their bedroom and woke them up. I said, "The town's on fire." Well, it wasn't. It was the mills that was working.
The steel mills.
And the sky was really just like it was a fire someplace.
Yeah.
And then he had a big dog, Irish wolfhound. And I was scared to death of that dog. But I walked in my sleep. And I came downstairs one night in my sleep, and I woke up and I was sitting in a chair right beside the dog, scared to death when I saw the dog.
Did Jesse and Alice Ennis have children?
Never.
They never had any children.
Mm-mm.
Was there a Doris
They adopted.
Oh, they adopted Doris Carroll.
Mm-hmm.
And how old were you when they adopted? Were you older then, or was that pretty quick right after they adopted you?
Yeah, I was 19.
Okay. Um, Now, did Ann move back to Nashville?
Yes, after we was there a couple of years, my mother got sick. And they called us and told us that she was pretty sick. They thought we ought to come down to see her. They didn't really expect her to live. So Ann and I went back down there, and Ann decided then she would stay there.
Why didn't you stay?
Because
Or why didn't you go back to Nashville and stay?
Because I had met a boyfriend in Youngstown.
And who was that?
It was the guy I married.
Okay.
That I met on the corner.
You met him on the corner. So you guys dated and then married. You and Tom Rex.
Uh-huh.
No middle name.
No, he put an initial in when he graduated from high school, but he had no middle name.
You mean he just made up an initial?
Just put it on his graduation cards and that kind of stuff. He had Thomas L. Rex.
L.
L. Just
Why did he do that?
He said it looked nicer.
Oh, well, all right.
If there was no need for the L, there's no name with the L. I mean,
Tell me how you met him.
on the corner, I said.
Well, but were you walking home from school or?
No, it was Sunday afternoon. And a girlfriend and I was out for a walk, and him and a boyfriend was out for a walk too, and we met on the corner of Mahoning and Lakeview.
It's a nice neighborhood. It's changed a little bit since then.
Oh, it's
changed a lot.
It changed a lot, but it was nice then.
And so you guys dated. What kind of things did you do when you were dating?
Went to a movie or just went for a walk or something. He had a car then, and
Oh, he had a car.
yeah,
Do you know what kind of car he had?
he had a Ford.
Do you know what year it was?
No, it was an old one.
It was an old one?
But he didn't have it when I first met him, but he got it later on.
Now, he told me, is that the car that he bought with a couple other people and they shared it?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. How long did you date before you were married?
Oh, we dated and then we broke up and then we went back together again.
And then got married. How long from when you met him till when you got married?
About 3 years.
About 3 years. And when did you get married? I know because my wife and I got married on your 50th wedding anniversary.
It's on that thing up there.
Yes, it is. You were married May 20th,
Mm-hmm.
1938.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you get married in a church, or was it with the Justice of the Peace?
The Justice of the Peace.
Tell me about that.
The fastest guy you ever heard of.
It was a quick wedding?
He talked fast.
Oh. Where did you get married?
In Pennsylvania,
Do you know where in Pennsylvania?
New Bedford.
New Bedford, Pennsylvania. And you got married, was it a courtroom or?
In his house,
Oh, in his house.
in the Justice of the Peace's house.
So did you have witnesses there?
Yeah,
Do you remember who they were?
a cousin of Tommy's and her husband,
Do you remember their name?
Sally and I can't think of his name.
Well, that's all right. Tell me about Tom Rex, my grandfather.
What do you want to know about him?
What just anything.
Well, when he got out of school, he started to work at Sharon Steel. A cousin of his, one of the Rexes, took him down to Sharon Steel, and they put him to work right away. He went to work the next day. This friend or cousin took him down there one morning, and the next morning he went to work on the labor.
And how long did he work at Sharon Steel? He retired, what, 82?
Yeah,
83? Something like that.
82.
He must have been there 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Did he have, tell me about his family. Start with his birth parents.
Oh, his birth parents was Thomas Finch, Catherine was her name, Catherine.
Okay. And now, did she die? She died when he was
8 days old
8 days. Okay. And do you know how she died?
from childbirth.
Okay. Complications from childbirth.
Mhm.
And so Tom Finch, what did he do?
Well, he was a salesman, and he did all kinds of jobs.
Then how did he handle when his wife, Tom's
Well,
mom, died? What did he do? What did he do with Tom? Didn't he give him up for adoption? Didn't he?
He said he was going to give him up for adoption, because what was he going to do with him? Well, Grandma Kleiny then, that was his grandmother on his mother's side.
Okay. And what was her name?
Kleiny was her last name.
Okay.
And she said, no, they weren't going to give him up for adoption. She would take him. She was a widow lady and worked every day. But she said she would manage to take care of him. Well, then these two adopted sisters of Mr. Finch, no, they were adopted Finch.
They.
Mrs. Rex was married before, and her husband died, and she had 2 daughters.
So these would be
Well, their name was Hale, was their last name.
Hale.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the oldest one of them, she was pregnant. She had a baby that was born dead a couple of months before Tom was born.
Okay.
So then Mrs. Rex then talked Mr. Rex into adopting Tom.
So this was his.
It was his aunt.
Would be his step aunt.
No, it was his.
Regular, natural aunt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And her husband, Mr. Rex,
And what was his first name?
George,
George. And her first name?
Clara.
George and Clara Rex.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they adopted Tom.
Mm-hmm. With the understanding that this sister was going to take him when she was better, after she had lost the baby and that. Well, then Mrs. Rex said no, that nobody was going to get him. She was going to keep him herself.
So that was Hale that was going to end up getting him and
Well,
never did.
Well, her name was Hale then, but she had married Mr. Rex,
Oh, okay.
and they adopted Tom then.
All right. So he had natural brothers, right? He had Finch brothers. Did he have sisters too?
Kleiny was her name. Grandma Kleiny was his grandmother on.
Okay, but his father his natural birth father, did they have any other children?
Who are you talking about having children?
Tom's natural parents, his birth parents. His mom had just died,
Yeah.
and his dad.
Well, his dad was Tom Finch.
Right. Did Tom Finch have any other children?
Not then.
Okay.
He was the first one.
Okay.
And then he got married and had children after that.
Okay. And the adopted parents, did they have children?
Mr. and Mrs. Rex had 2 daughters. They were her daughters. Mr. Rex never had a child.
He never had children.
Never
Okay.
had a child in his life.
So that was George Rex.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And let me tell you, he was a grand man.
What do you mean he was a grand man?
He was so good to us. I mean, when Tom and I got married, he was real pleased with us. And he helped us buy our first house that we ever owned
Where was that house?
on Catherine Street in Struthers.
And how much was that house? Do you remember?
Well, the down payment was $500 on it.
And he gave you that?
He gave us that.
Wow. That's a lot of money.
That was the down payment on this house.
And how much, do you know what the whole house cost? The whole cost was?
About $2,500 or something
Wow.
like that. It wasn't very much.
And where did you and Tom live before you bought that house?
On the south side of Youngstown.
Was it an apartment?
No, it was a house
You rented a house?
with this couple that went with us when we got married.
Oh, okay. That we can't remember their names. We're gonna find their names though. Joe? Was it Joe?
Joe Perry,
Perry, that's it. Joe Perry. And his wife?
Sally.